All right, short and sweet intro. This is one of the first kind of breakdowns where we just talk really quickly after the release of a new property, and it's part of expounding the MCU. So welcome for anybody who ends up joining us. I'm Tony. You guys know me with fandoms, and then we've got Johnny with me. How are you doing, Johnny?
Not bad. Just a little bit tired, but that's because I got off work earlier today. So yeah.
And we were hoping to have a lot more people do this, but again, last minute, late at night. It doesn't matter because it's just we're going to talk about this, and
There was no way I wasn't going to talk about this.
We've already talked a bit about this.
True.
And so if you haven't been watching any of our TikTok videos, you'll get caught up pretty quickly. Now we may do more of this down the road. It all depends on again how well it does and just having the time to do it.
We should do one later.
Better to do this like at the beginning of the weekend, like after it was like fresh and we were just seeing it. When did you go see the movie?
I saw it on Thursday, the same day, like 3 minutes after finishing the Loki finale. Me and my friend ran straight to the theater because we were in the mall. So we just ran straight to the theater after Loki and just sat our asses down just to watch the Marvels.
Oh, that's cool. I'm going to try to see the backgrounds. There's any Marvel.
That one kind of works, actually.
That kind of works, yeah. Especially with Orlando. Was it Orlando or Andalando or whatever it was?
Yeah.
So we went. So we didn't do fandoms on Friday because it was my 1 year anniversary.
Right.
Or not 1 year anniversary. I'm sorry, 16-year anniversary. Sorry, honey. My mind is all over the place. I literally just got off of work, but so it was our anniversary. We went out. My son is jealous that we saw the movie without him. Like we were just saying, oh, we're gonna go out on a date, blah blah blah, whatever. And then I called to just check in at home and remind to take medicine. And he's like, what are they doing? And my mom asked, and I said, oh, we're at the Marvels. And so he's like, oh man, are you serious? So
any excuse to catch that movie again, though, right?
Yeah, well, he can take a break. He's seen he went to the premiere of Guardians 3. We took him out on opening night for Mario. He went to an early screening of Mutant Mayhem.
Right.
And he went to Across the Spider-Verse. Like I think it was we went on a Sunday showing. So he doesn't need to worry about that.
I mean,
but we are talking the Marvels, and of course, it's gotten some mixed reviews if you even care about certain people's opinions. But the first outing for these three, Carol Danvers as technically her sequel film, and then this is the first theatrical debut for Iman Vellani's Miss Marvel, as well as Teyonah Parrish's Monica Rambeau. I keep wanting to call her Spectrum.
I keep wanting to call her Photon. Funny enough,
that's well, okay. We're already going to be in spoiler territory, so just kind of get over it. If you don't like spoilers, you're not going to want to watch this at all because we'll do that, and I'll make sure there's a spoiler warning at the beginning, or like somewhere in the description. That end scene where she started absorbing all of their energy, and you started seeing her like glowing different. Mm-hmm. Like I'm like, oh, they're going full Spectrum. They're going there.
They even gave her Spectrum costume for a little bit with the whatever the heck you call those things. I don't even know what they were, but the moment I saw her just rip those things, the tassels. The moment she took them off, I'm like, no, those were so cool.
Oh, like the cape, yes,
yeah,
yes, because she had the whole cape thing going.
Yeah,
there were lots of nods to like the MCU as a whole, and that was just the fun part of it. Let's just go ahead and go back to the beginning. So
yes.
There is something going on with the jump points, which if you don't know about, like if you haven't seen anything since Guardians Volume 2, that is the way that the universe basically does transportation.
Yeah.
You don't want to go through too many jump points because we've seen what happens with Yondu's ship and Rocket and
yes, I love that moment.
But it was interesting to find out that Kamala's bands, which they're not the Nega bands, they're the Quantum bands.
Right.
That they were crucial in building what is known as the Jump Network.
Yeah. Which is a really cool piece of MCU canon lore now, I find.
Yeah, it's it's one of those things where it's like if you've read the comics and you kind of know where things are or what things existed, it's nice going into the MCU and seeing how they recreate it so that you don't need to go back and do all the research. But then you could be like, as a comic book fan, you're like, oh, this kind of goes with this and it's like this, and you can kind of hope that they kind of do the same thing. But
Yeah.
I don't remember too much about the jump points in the comic books because they never really.
I don't think those are really a thing in the comics.
Fast. Was that?
I don't think those are really a thing in the comics from what I remember. Like, at least it never comes up in any of these sci-fi and Marvel books that I read.
Well, it's like in the comic books, if they needed to go from like Xandar to nowhere,
they just
went from one panel to the next.
Exactly.
But it's like, and they learned from Age of Ultron, you can't have, Captain, Steve Rogers, talking to Helen Cho, I'm sorry, Helen Cho, in her lab, and then all of a sudden he's at the overpass watching the truck that had left 15 minutes beforehand. So
I forgot about that.
Yeah, like there were jump points in Hong Kong, but you never know.
Seoul.
So that's right. Yeah. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You always forget. It's been a while since I've seen Age of Ultron.
It has been for me as well. I just remember watching it a bunch when it first came out. So yeah.
Okay, so first impression of the movie. What were your first thoughts?
Oh my god! Honestly, like from start to finish, it flowed so well in my opinion. Like, yes, it's an hour 45. It just genuinely doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like 2 hours. It honestly feels less than an hour 45. So the fact that we got all the way to the end, and then for me just go like, wait, is that it? Was just interesting for me for the first time when it comes to a Marvel movie, because usually I'm pretty conscious of what's going on. You can tell when second act ends and third act begins and all that. But this one was just so seamlessly put together that I loved it for it. But at the same time, I want more. That was that was the first thing that I said to my friend who I went to go watch it with. I was just like, I want more. I need more. Partially because I do feel like, there were some things that I wanted to have it explored more of, for sure. But just because I love the relationship of these characters so much. And I'm also even fascinated by Dar-Benn.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Like, I heard a lot of people complaining that Dar-Benn wasn't that great of
my comment section.
And I'm like, okay. So first of all, I don't really feel like Dar-Benn was necessarily like the villain we were wanting to label as a villain. It was more of, she was the consequence of what Carol Danvers did.
Exactly.
That we then find out later on. Like, so you look at Dar-Benn only knows of Carol as the Annihilator. She only knows of her as like throwing her people into a civil war for 30 years. They've lost their resources. They've
lost their galaxy's influence.
Yeah. And they're about to die. And from what I can tell, she's like one of the last accusers basically alive.
Yeah.
And so it makes a lot of sense that she would have the animosity that she would, but at the same time, she was a victim of circumstance. And so it makes a lot of sense that she would do what she did, but at the same time, she wasn't necessarily the threat. It was Carol's past coming back to haunt her.
Exactly. And I honestly think that they worked through it pretty well, because for the longest time, we've had Carol Danvers appear in like, 2 proper appearances besides her solo movie. We had her in Endgame. We had her as a quick little cameo in Shang-Chi. And then the end credits singer of Ms. Marvel, which was just this movie again.
Right.
So like, yeah, most like we just say she has like 3 appearances max, really. And in between that time, we've always just wondered, like, what's going on with Captain Marvel? Why doesn't she just return back to Earth and all that? Why? And then during WandaVision, we're like, why does Monica seem to have beef with her? Why did she say we do not, what was it, ensue her name or something like that?
Oh,
yeah. And we got our answers. And honestly, I will say it's a very satisfying answer overall.
I would say that, I said this in a TikTok video, but one of the things that was most interesting to me was when they came to the point where, she's using the scroll technology, the access her memories, and they're doing this, and she kind of she spilled out I've been doing this to still try to access memories and find pieces of myself, and Monica was like, you're still doing that, you still. And it was a moment where Monica wonders what's going on with Carol, and people might think, I think I heard one person say, and this is one of the critics that was on Rotten Tomatoes, basically said that 30 years of animosity was ended with a hug. And it's like, that's kind of not what happened, because there were little slips. Like Carol slipped a couple times, because you can tell she's unsure of herself because she's been so isolated from people for so long. Like she's literally
cat.
The goose, Flurkin.
Or Flurkin.
She's only had the one Flurkin, companion the whole time. She seems to have had some engagement with Valkyrie, which I almost kind of feel that's more of a camaraderie for what they did at Endgame, than it was anything else. Because I think Valkyrie probably knew that she needed help, and so for her, like, that felt so much like a friend. And some people are thinking more, and that's fine. But
I feel like they're a little bit more. I feel like there's more to them than just friendship, just based off of the the really tight hug and the kisses on the cheek and all that.
Yeah, but that's just Valkyrie. Like, I mean,
that's true. Valkyrie is very flirty.
The flirting is 100%. Like, look what she did, like at the
Love and Thunder at the what was it, God City or something like that?
Yeah, and so that was the slipping of saying, like, trying to find peace of myself and everything else. And then when you finally get to the point where you discover that she has been isolating herself to avoid coming home to let people know that she was an annihilator, that she literally was a villain. She took out an entire civilization basically, and threw them into civil war. She was no worse than Thanos, which everyone was praising her for helping defeat. And that made a lot of sense, because, I mean, think about when Shang-Chi, like, as soon as she was starting to get engaged in the conversation, she's just like, oh, I gotta go.
To leave.
Yeah, she's like, she's always looking for an excuse to get away, because she can't handle, like, it would be too much if everybody started asking her questions like, what have you been doing? Where, how everything's going?
I feel like it's also a case, though, because, like, in one of my examinations, I said that I feel like Carol is just spreading herself out thin as a way to make amends for her actions to what she did to the Kree as well. And partially, like, and because like, looking at how colonization worked, like, right? Because that's what the Kree were. They were colonizers at the end of the day. And after Britain left most of the countries, look at what happened to India and Pakistan. Things erupted from within because of their removal of power, because they just left. I feel like a portion of it is also just Carol trying to, like, help other people that were under the control of the Kree to make up for what she did, because I feel like the repercussions of her destroying the Supreme Intelligence went beyond just what happened to Hala. So I feel like it's very much a circumstance of the Carol situation, just being like, yeah, I wish I could stay around, but also I've got to go deal with this because I still feel guilty and everything. So yeah.
Now, interesting enough, if you go back, this is something that also kind of popped in my mind. In the first Guardians of the Galaxy film, when you have Xandar reaching out to the Kree because they had just made a peace treaty. They're like, we need your help. Ronan is slaughtered, and they basically, the Kree are like, listen, we got our own problems. You got to handle your own. Like, and I completely get it, because they were in no position to help.
Yeah,
and the last thing that they could do was take on Ronan, one of their own people, because I'm pretty sure he was on the wrong side of whatever the civil unrest was.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, he wanted to destroy Xandar. So that means you got to wonder if, like, Nova got involved. Like, like you see that, like, at some point. And I'm hoping that we get him down the road, especially if we're teasing the Young Avengers.
100%. We need Richard Rider. We need Sam Alexander. I need both of them, honestly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then you wonder if, like, the only reason why Ronan didn't go to Earth and take that on is because he was scared to death of Carol. So yeah. It's kind of neat, because, like, people want to criticize this film, but this film kind of fills in some holes.
Legitimately, it does. People are like, oh, this movie adds nothing. Like, I don't like, what was one of the comments I got? It was like, it lacks impact on the rest of the MCU, but, like, it may lack impact to an extent, but it adds so much more context on top of it is the thing though.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of people are easily overlooking that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the subcontext of the film, of course, we go back to the beginning. There is a disturbance in the jump points. Of course, what do people do? You know, responsible PhD carrying people do when they see something that's anomalous that could infect the entire galaxy. We touch it.
Yeah.
And so, of course, she touched it. Carol touched it. They became entangled. And of course, the other light-based powered person, being Kamala Khan, is then thrusted into the situation. And they're all entangled with each other, which then made for a really fun
It is
back and
it's
forth.
so great because what was it in the comics? Because back in the day, Rick Jones, I think, had the Nega bands. It was they weren't the Quantum bands, I think, but Rick Jones would clash them together, and then he would swap places with Captain Marvel, and he would come in from the Cancerverse, and then be like almost like Shazam because Marvel was trying to recreate that magic because
Mhm.
Fawcett Comics couldn't do Shazam at the time due to DC's lawsuit.
Right.
So this is what that reminded me of with all the switching and all that. Just,
Mhm.
less here's you, here's him. It's just more so still all of them being together, still being able to have fun. And just it creates for genuinely what I think is one of the best fight scenes in the MCU. Because
Oh yeah.
it reminded me so much of the Iron Man versus was it Captain America and Winter Soldier fight at the end of Civil War. But it was just more so all of them working together as a team. And I gotta say, I think this fight is way more well choreographed and edited compared to that one. That one has a lot more emotional stakes, I will 100% say. But in this one, I just love the action sequence to death.
Now I will say this: we left Kamala Khan. She had helped her friend escape. You know, he's with the Red Dagger.
Yeah.
She's been accepted by her family and like many in her community. She's definitely getting control of her powers. But can we talk about what has she been doing to learn how to fight so well? Because
Yeah.
like people complain like, oh, you know, we it was undeserved fighting, blah blah blah. I will say this though, for a teenager,
She did so well in
was
fighting
kicking
the
so
Kree
much
on
butt.
the Nick Fury's little elevator ship.
And when she was like, she did that sliding kick thing,
Yeah.
and she got the gun in her hand, and then she just kind of like tossed it to Fury. It was like, she's like, why would I need this? I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm thinking if I were a teenager and I'm being attacked by people and I get one of the weapons, I'm probably going to be trying to use it.
Yeah.
But she's like, I'm more powerful than that.
Probably. Also, can we also very briefly talk about how, like, after Kamala didn't have the band, she was still able to use her abilities?
Yes.
I
Yes.
really thought in that moment we were just gonna see her embiggen her hand and bring them in. In that one brief moment, I was really thinking, okay, this is where we get like the comic book version of Kamala's powers, but we still got the hard light based abilities, which is interesting to me because I very much just thought that was connected to the bangle.
Yeah, well, I think what they did, and we've talked about this with Ms. Marvel, I really feel like they're kind of blending her into armor,
Mhm.
and for that very specific purpose, because she still does kind of have embiggen, because I think she even mentioned that in the
Yeah,
series.
in the Ms. Marvel series,
But
yeah.
it's more of like she's using the hard light to create extensions of herself.
Mhm.
So I think that's their way away around when they finally do introduce Reed Richards. They don't
Mhm.
have that similar of abilities.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like Reed Richards could stretch himself, but he couldn't make himself giant.
He
And I
couldn't make
think
himself giant. He couldn't shrink himself. He couldn't morph what he looks like except for in
right.
Fantastic.
Oh yeah.
And that
Yeah.
was horrific.
Really, which was funny though, because like at one point he made himself unrecognizable to the Clerk, but in the rest of the film, he made it unrecognizable to a Marvel movie. So I didn't, you know. But anyway, we could talk so much crap about that film.
I would love to.
So yeah, by all means, it was interesting to see, like, especially since Monica Rambeau, we saw her as a kid,
Mhm.
but we got the adult version in WandaVision. We got Kamala Khan, who had her own Disney Plus series,
Right.
and they brought them in, and I feel like they introduced them in a way that was really simple.
It was really organic. It was straight to the point, and the plot worked so well with it overall. Yes, Aman Vellani 100% carried this movie for me.
Oh,
She
and
is
I didn't see this. Ken's in here too. He said, yeah, Rick did have the nega bands.
okay.
So
I still have my comic book nerd badge then.
and I really kind of wish they would have called them nega bands, but I get what they're doing because
Mhm.
Quantum Mania, the quantum realm, quantum mechanics,
Yeah,
the multiverse.
it's because was it? If I remember, if I'm correct, Phyla Vell has the quantum bands, which is interesting because Phyla shows up at the end of Guardians 3 too. So
Mhm.
I'm curious what's gonna go on there. Also, at the end, we actually see Carol with the other quantum band, which I
Right.
love so much.
Well, you don't want to give. First of all, you don't want to give a teenager that much power, and second of
True.
all, the bands probably need to be separated because it would be too easy to get them if anything did happen.
Very true. I,
But
I am curious to see how that plays out in the future of the MCU, though.
now, what would be interesting is because Carol and her and Kamala have the both bands, if they can find some way to activate the switching again.
Yes, that would be so cool. Also true, they could do the other Quasar. I completely forgot about Wendell. Or they could do the Quasar from what was it? I think it was Secret Empire or Civil War 2, where we just got like
Oh,
a random girl who became
Secret Empire. You're
another
gonna give me
Quasar.
flashbacks.
I love Secret Empire. That's legitimately one of my favorite comic book events ever.
Oh my goodness. We can talk about that at a different time. So we the introduction was fantastic. First of all, I think I don't have the video, the picture of it. Let's talk about Goose for a minute.
Oh my god. I didn't think Goose was gonna be so vital to the film, but she was.
I tried to have one of the pictures of her flying through space with Goose on her back.
Yeah.
That was probably one of my favorite things throughout the whole thing.
I'm just glad they decided to go like, you know what, we'll just have Carol flying through space and Goose will be on her back. Because I saw concept art from Andy Park, I think it was, where Goose had one of those cat backpacks and had like a vacuum seal on top. That would have been absolutely hilarious. But at the same time, the idea of Goose just on Carol's back the entire time as she's flying through space is perfect as well, I think.
Well, yeah, and the Goose is a Flurkin, so it's a little bit different.
Mhm.
But yeah, I loved it, and of course, if anybody doesn't know, Goose is not a real cat whenever it's with Carol.
Yeah.
So Brie Larson is really allergic to cats.
Yeah.
so
I
Goose is
respect
all
it so
digital.
much.
Yeah. Let's see if did either of you here. Oh, you're asking about Taylor Swift, so we get into. I don't know if the algorithm works for YouTube. We're not talking about. Oh well, we just got two more viewers.
Yes, no, I totally heard about Taylor Swift changing the lyrics so that Travis Kelce was mentioned though. My friends would not stop talking about it.
Coming home to her.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I didn't get Taylor Swift tickets sadly for Vancouver. It's so sad.
Yeah. I was just listening to a Reddit video where it was talking about somebody paid $4,000 for Taylor Swift tickets, and I'm like, yeah. Keep moving, keep on moving. All right, so we talked about Goose. We talked about we will talk about the trouble with Flurkins in a little bit.
Yes.
But there's another thing. So basically, again, spoilers if you haven't seen it. We're talking about Dar-Benn is using the quantum man that she has, and she's using her hammer to overpower it and basically making these unstable jump points that are basically sucking things from so they suck the atmosphere from the Skrull refugee planet. And then we go to Andala. I'm always going to
Andalin or something like
Andalin.
that. Point is, a planet where people sing to communicate, which is pulled straight from the comics, and I completely forgot about. So shout out to our friend Shuby out there for letting me know. But yeah, no, that was pulled from a Kelly Sue DeConnick run of Captain Marvel, which was phantasmal, and it was even better by the fact that we have a K-pop star playing their monarchy, I guess.
Oh yeah, hold on. Let me get there. We go.
I can't remember the gentleman's name. Park Sun Yoon or something like that, I think. But no, oh my god. The moment we got to that planet and they just started singing, I was very confused for that moment. And then Carol says, like, oh yeah, no, they sing here to communicate. I just immediately grabbed my friend, just like, if we get Brie Larson singing, this movie is an instant 10 out of 10 in my heart. And we did. I wish she had a full song the entire time. I'm okay with what we got, but
Okay, let me just say this. I was hoping that there would have been an opportunity for Kamala to communicate with them, and she would
Same.
have pulled out an entire like dance and everything.
She's got the moves that we've seen in Ms. Marvel during that wedding episode.
I know. Like I was really hoping for that, but then we come in here, then we find out the revelation that she is a princess. So Captain Marvel, Brie Larson is a Disney princess officially,
And I love that
and
so much. Oh, that dress is so beautiful.
like hey, look how happy he looks. I mean,
That's how happy I would look. My main takeaway from this scene was just like, okay, Captain Marvel has a slight thing for Asian dudes, at least. I stand a chance.
and you know, she's like, this is out of convenience, and I'm like, yeah, it would seem very convenient.
Totally convenience.
But then the moment when like he starts talking to them normal and they look both confused, and she's like, oh, he's bilingual.
A perfect delivery, perfect mic drop moment.
So
Peak MCU comedy.
So this, and then later on, the scene on the space station,
Yes,
on the Saber station, are probably for me the two most comic book one worlds,
yeah,
and then two comic book solutions to a problem.
Especially a problem that we keep seeing a fair bit in most media. That, you know, like usually it's just like cool. Heroes find a way, they save the day. It's this convoluted thing. But no, instead we get a comedic solution that's just as good, if not arguably better than most.
Yep. And for those who, you know, you've seen the movie if you're still watching, because I think there's like 3 of you in here now. The solution to the space station being disabled was, of course, the Fleur kittens.
The Fleur kittens.
Yes. Which was funny because if you look, Will said the AMC popcorn bucket spoiled a plot point for him.
I haven't seen it.
So here I'll let you explain. I'm gonna pull up and I'll add to this the AMC popcorn buckets.
Okay.
Yeah.
In short, there's of course a situation where the Saber space station is just down to one escape pod and only one flying vehicle craft that can actually leave the Saber station. And there's like, what, 1 billion other Saber agents on there? So they're just trying to find a way to make sure that everyone can get off safely. And of course, the solution becomes Fleur kittens eating people. Because we've seen it was set up right at the start of the film when Goose ate, 2 of the Kree soldiers, got sent back with Kamala to her house, and she's just holding Goose out of pure terror, and then Goose just vomits up the 2 Kree soldier, and then Kamala has to deal with is just 2 Kree soldiers in her house. But anyways, so then a portion of the film becomes our heroes trying to save people by trying to get them to be eaten. And I love that moment where Kamala just throws up a wall in front of some guy and just goes, I am so sorry about this. And then from behind her, a kitten walks up all menacingly, devours a guy, and then it's just the kitten giving the most innocent and cutest look on his face ever. Just go like, what?
It was the music though, the music as well. Like that classical, like
it's just like a classical cartoon hijinks music.
Oh, yeah. So let me bring up Will's comment again. So the popcorn buckets ruin the subplot for the plot point for him. Here's why. I know in Vancouver you don't have this issue.
You don't get the cool popcorn buckets.
Okay, so I didn't like it because first of all I didn't understand it at the time until I watched the film. I'm like, oh, now these are kind of cool. But I like the one that I got. It's kind of behind me up here somewhere. It looks like the logo, and it's got the S in it, and it lights up, and it's cool.
Yeah, that one looks cool. I remember you posting about it. That one looks beautiful. I wish we could get that. This
is the AMC popcorn bucket.
All right, let's take a look. Okay, see here. I would pay so much money for this.
So this is the popcorn bucket. Each one has a cat inside, and the cat is a cup. And there are listen. There are 4 different types of cats that you can get. One being the ultra rare golden kitten.
Oh my
And
god.
so there are different. Oh, Will says you don't get the kittens because you get Ryan Reynolds.
I mean, true, and I get Seamoon too.
But that is the popcorn bucket. So at the moment that I was deciding where I was going, I'm like, this doesn't even look like something I'd want. I don't think I'd want it. And so because I don't like cute, like I love anime, but like the cutie weeby stuff, I'm not there yet. But
Fair.
It didn't appeal to me. And then I'm sitting in the movie and I leaned over to my wife and I said, I'm kind of regretting not going to AMC now.
Mistakes were made.
Mistakes were made.
I'm not gonna lie, I just googled where the closest AMC for me is. It's an hour and 32-minute drive, and I just need to cross the border. I'm actually tempted to do this now.
It's worth it. It's worth it. No,
I
but
might.
But you realize there are 4 different kittens you can get.
Okay, so there's the super ultra rare golden kitten.
Hold on, let me see if I can find all the. Hold on, let me try to find. Hold on. Oh my goodness.
But it's even better though, because we end up with the kittens all thrown into a single pod, shuttled back to Earth with all our heroes. And then they're just out there in like what I'm pretty sure is Central Park in New York, just vomiting up people. And you have the one random dude sitting in the park on like a beautiful picnic mat, reading a book. He'll like lower the book, and then you just see a floor kitten vomit up a man, and he's like, what the hell? And stands up. And this man is almost definitely an absolute horror, just looking around, just completely having his mind blown. And the next thing he knows, the sun is going out. So for this man, this is probably the end of the world. This is his biblical version of the world is ending.
Okay, I am so sorry for what I'm about to tell you.
Oh boy.
There's more than one.
There's more than
one. There's more than 4. There's 5.
Oh no.
Let me see if I can can I share my Oh, here we go. Share screen. Hold on. It's probably easier. Window. Here we go. Share.
Oh, that was so cute.
So you can get 5 different kittens, one being the ultra rare gold.
Ah. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I want the black and white one with blue eyes. That one is so cute.
Yeah, it all makes sense now.
It really does. I love how the popcorn bucket is just the egg. That was really gross to look at, by the way.
So, but imagine you're buying the popcorn bucket and you're like, okay, what does this have to do with anything? And then all of a sudden you see the first egg in the film and everyone's like, what's this? And you're like, I wonder what it is.
I won't lie, because I was watching some interviews going on with the Marvels, with like the production people and all that, and people are like, oh yeah, no, the floor kittens are so vital and everything, they're going to be everything to the fans. And I thought they were just being hyperbolic. I thought they were just trying to hype up the kittens, because one, they can easily use kittens. Exactly, they're adorable. But also, it's just because there was the strike going on, so they could only really rely on the animals to help advertise the movie, because like they were doing the same thing with Cosmo the dog at Guardians 3 at for Guardians 3 at SDCC. So I just thought they were doing the same thing here. But no, there was a full-on plot with them. And the moment I saw the egg, I'm like, I know what's in the egg. But first off, gross. But second off, I wonder, there's just gonna be a bunch of kittens running around now. Like I don't see how that's gonna help or anything, but okay.
Okay, so here's the thing. We've gone up for almost about 35 minutes. There's a lot of stuff that a lot of people complain about when it comes to phases 4 and 5. They complain about it's not all connected, or it's too connected, or it's not, it doesn't really support, like there doesn't seem to be this big bad that's looming over it. And first of all, what I have to say to that is we have been working for over 15 years to get to a point where people respect the comic bookiness of movies. And we are now to that comic booky point, and I'm tired of hearing people complain. Like it's almost like we're getting back to the point of where back in the 80s they were talking about doing Howard the Duck, and George Lucas wanted to make something that was true to the comics, and the executives are like, no, let's just make it stupid. And
we'll just have a duck sleep with a woman.
Yeah. And the MCU, the first 3 phases, obviously they didn't know until 2012 that they wanted to tease anything really big. They just wanted to try to get the team up to seem organic.
Yeah.
And then of course you had a guy in makeup that wasn't all makeup. It wasn't CGI. That was the turning head of Thanos.
Yeah.
And back then I'm thinking, oh dude, this guy is really going to try to court Death. Like I thought he was trying to marry Death.
I thought he was gonna I thought he was just gonna be pissed off because Death is like, ew, no.
Yeah, and like, well, of course, what you get Deadpool in the mix, and Death really wants Deadpool, and so we thought that was where it was going, and then you start seeing more of the stones, and you're like, oh, they're using these stones, they're not gems because Chris Pratt couldn't say the word gem. The stones were making everything comic booky. They're altering things like the Maximoff twins and stuff like that. And now we're at a point where comic accurate costumes are a thing.
Just look at Guardians 3.
Well, let even go back as farther. Steve Rogers in Endgame. We didn't get any further. They put the scales on the suit.
Yes,
and it looked good and
so beautiful.
And they were teasing it all the way back in Infinity War.
Yes,
because when he was battle damaged, you could see them under,
like the little bits of it.
Yeah. So like you're like, oh, okay, that's battle armor. Wait a second, and then you see the scales, and it's comic booky. You have Ant-Man, and you have Scarlet Witch. I'll be honest with you, Scarlet Witch is probably one of the dopest adaptations when it comes to looking beautiful, but then also looking extremely menacing when you see her in Multiverse of Madness, where she's obviously like deteriorating and distorted. And you see, and I love what they did with Shang-Chi. Like I honestly, I did not like the way he looked in the comics.
For the longest time he was just wearing a red and golden gi, or he'd be shirtless,
right?
And I can't really walk around shirtless.
And you give him the shirt and you make it the dragon scale, which is amazing.
You use
the design became iconic.
Inspired art.
Yeah,
it's just it's stunning. Yeah,
absolutely. But then you have that one that built a world. Like a lot of the phases 4 and 5 happened on either different planets or different realities, and that was by design because
we're expanding.
There's this tease, Multiverse of Madness. The incursions were mentioned, and then you have an incursion that Strange is being pulled from by Clea to solve. There's the threat of all of that. You've got Wanda messing with the multiverse. You've got America Chavez that can go across the multiverse. You have No Way Home that is pulling from the multiverse. Like it's ridiculous. I mean, then you have Kang, they're in the quantum realm, and then
Loki now.
Oh my gosh. Like Loki and God Loki, it's absolutely phenomenal. And again, that all happened before even What If or everything else, if you really think about timeline wise, because, well, mind you, it took him centuries to get to the point where he decided to just take it over himself. Like the amount of knowledge that he had to obtain, like he's a completely different character in that ending episode than he was at the beginning of the episode.
Even at the end of Endgame too, I still see them as very different characters as well.
Yeah. And I feel like that was another thing
Infinity War, my bad.
Season 2 really solved, because how do you really go through all of that development from a number of years by observing somebody else in your life doing these things? It's kind of like, this is your life, this is what you would face, and be like, oh, I think I'll be a good guy now. But then you have him for centuries, he's trying to save the people he loves, and it's like that is the biggest way to develop a character, to make the sacrificial decision. Because everything was telling him he had to kill somebody or he had to let people die. When in actuality he just had to sacrifice his freedom.
To be selfless.
Right, exactly. Which was something that Loki never would have considered doing. But then you have that, and then you have this, and of course that very revealing end credit scene.
Yes.
Again, I'm just gonna say, because everybody watches this. This is spoilers. Get out if you don't want to watch this part. But Monica ending up in an alternate reality, a different place in the multiverse, and seeing a version of her mother
as binary, which that suit honestly looked pretty dope, I will say.
And then Hank McCoy,
which, by the way, some people were complaining about how he looks because he's CGI now. Honestly, that's a comic book accurate Hank McCoy beast there. I loved it. I don't see an issue with it.
And it was Kelsey Grammer who did Hank McCoy in the X-Men movies.
Yeah.
Which the original X-Men movies. I want to clarify that.
Last Stand and
it's not Nicholas Hoult. Which made him look like he was a cross-eyed werewolf.
I didn't hate that either, though. I won't lie.
No, it was fun, but it was just kind of weird. It was kind of weird,
especially when
I think they realized that. That's why they gave him the ability to hide his ability or hide himself.
Oh god, I completely forgot about that in Days. Fun fact: I'm not a fan of that movie. A lot of people love it. I'm not.
It was better than Last Stand.
It was definitely better than Last Stand.
Okay, listen, Last Stand made me be really accepting to a lot of things. People want to complain about the MCU. Let's just say this. Because of Last Stand and X-Men Origins, I liked Days of Future Past. I liked the Wolverine. I absolutely loved Logan. And then when we got to Dark Phoenix, I was okay with Dark Phoenix because my constant thought was, it's at least it's not Last Stand.
While I was watching Dark Phoenix, I'm like, I don't know if this or Dark Phoenix is more painful, and I still can't figure it out.
Last Stand was absolutely more painful. Absolutely.
I'll have to give it a rewatch one of these days, but I will say I think I dislike the New Mutants more than Last Stand.
You have to remember. So I liked the New Mutants.
Really?
Listen, my bar was extremely low after Last Stand. I let's say my bar was extremely like.
Okay, but was it brought further down after Fantastic?
Yes. But see, I was prepared not to like Fantastic.
That's fair.
Because, see, here's the thing. This is where a lot of people complain. Where we get the reason why there's so much complaints and everything else. First of all, the Marvels they made a gross of $46 million domestically. 60-some million, so it was $110 million for opening season. They were number one, which is not bad. It's just the lowest grossing. Does not mean that they're a flop. They still have like
2 whole months.
They have weeks to get to the point where they at least make that back to $243 million.
They can easily break even, I think, which by Marvel standard isn't amazing, I know, but still, it's better than most superhero movies, I find.
But see, here's the thing. Once everything comes to a culmination, these films are going to be extremely rewatchable again. And I think that's where people don't understand. But we're living in a day and time in social media where everybody's talking about this stuff and they're complaining.
And plus, spoilers are all over the place. Like, scenes are being posted on TikTok as well.
Right. But here's the thing. Like, I was making my Marvel. I would watch Marvel Movie News with Popcorn Talk and stuff like that. That's where I first learned about Quajandro. And so I was big on the news and stuff years before we really had this social media sphere. And so I remember hearing the news reports and like hearing like the insider stuff with Fantastic, how
Josh Trank was trashing the set.
They were not even going to make Victor Von Doom.
Yeah, it was like Victor Dovashev or something like that.
And he wasn't even from like it wasn't even from Latveria. They ended up changing that because of the backlash that people had from and then we were finding that out like within Connections. It was really hard. It was like people coming out and spoiling things from the screeners, and then they went back and fixed it, but it wasn't enough to save it. There was great potential. I didn't mind the way Thing looked.
I just needed pants on him.
Yeah. and he needed to not look like a Cronin, which was my biggest problem with him.
Yeah, he did look like Korg's. Like,
he looked
third
more
cousin.
like Korg than Korg looked like Korg. Like that was the
This is
thing.
true. That was more comic book Korg than MCU Korg.
Yeah,
Is that why they made him gray in this universe?
possibly.
Head Force stick. I never considered that.
Listen, Dark Phoenix was the worst. No, it wasn't. The Last Stand is the worst. And it's only got it by a few hairs with X-Men Origins Wolverine. It should be an international crime to try to cover up Ryan Reynolds' mouth.
This is
I'm
true.
just saying. So yeah, regardless. But let's kind of get back to we were going. So, of course, Dar-Benn was defeated. We have that tease at the end, which I really feel that the Kang is going to be more so now a misdirect than with the issues with John the Majors, whether they're accurate or not. Corporations have to think about what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And then the stories, obviously, they're changing and adapting. I think Marvel is going to take a little bit more time with some of their stuff. They've got more time to.
Yeah, we only have one MCU movie coming out next year.
Which honestly, I remember when we only had two.
That's the thing. Like 2008, we had Incredible Hulk and Iron Man 1. 2011, we had Cap 1 and Thor.
And then you had 2012. You had
just the Avengers. And wait, didn't Iron Man 3 come out in 2012? Or was that 2013?
It came in, I think it was the spring of 2013.
Yeah, it was. I remember that.
Because I remember it being weird because it was a Christmas themed movie and
in the spring. Yeah, I remember that now. I remember going to it with my friends after school, so it had to be in the spring, I think.
Yeah. And so I don't even know where to go.
It's fascinating because we haven't had a Marvel movie in years.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me is sad about that though, because I'm ADHD as hell. I like just the constant dopamine that the MCU gives me. I'm sure, like, we're still getting the TV shows. I know that. I'm sure that'll hold me over to some extent. We're getting What If season 2, I think, and Echo. I don't know what else we're getting next year based off of the delays and changes and all that. But those Echo's confirmed for next year. What If is just heavily rumored by the end of this year into next year. I'm sure those two will hold me over, but at the same time, just those two and Deadpool 3. I feel like I'm going to sound selfish, but I want more. I hope for more. Well, and X-Men 97, I think.
So here's the thing. The pandemic made us go the longest we've ever had without having Marvel content.
Yes. And that's part of the reason why I'm so sad, because that era sucked.
Right. And then I feel like they rushed to make up. Now, I'm going to think, I love the MCU. I've loved every MCU film that's come out. Some I like more than others. It's okay to criticize. Not anything is perfect. There are little things in this movie that I felt like were, that could have been fleshed out more. I think for the director doing what she did a fantastic job.
Nina DaCosta needs to come back. I really hope she gets to make
for that. This is her first major motion picture. Like, yes.
Yeah. She's the youngest MCU director ever as well. And the first Black woman to direct an MCU
I think for her, starting out, especially with a Marvel film, making the audience want more versus giving them way too much was the better way to go. And so I understand it.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen more, because like I feel like she's married to the Prince of Andalanda and whatever it is. I promise you I'm never gonna get the Andalanda or whatever.
We'll just start calling it Atlanta.
Yeah. But she doesn't go back. We don't know anything more about them. That was the only thing that they saved the people, the Skrulls, but they didn't go back to save the people of the land.
Yeah, I'm still don't know what happened with that planet, by the way.
Yeah, because here's my other thing. Like, if you open a jump point, did they have enough atmosphere so that it didn't suck the atmosphere out as well? And it just sucked the water? Like like I'm telling you, comic booky science is like really interesting.
Yeah.
But again, like those
And like,
are
do they take all the water?
yeah, because I mean, if the place is the plot the property,
It was like
mind you,
99.3% water. I
yeah.
think.
So what if they took like 50% of the water that they had,
That's still a
and
lot
they're
of
like,
water.
we've got lots of land.
Exactly.
Now,
They can.
now we're
We
not
can have more
Land-o-lando, we're now
sprawl.
Land-o-lando.
Jeez.
So, but yeah, so I would have loved them to go back to them. You know, I would have loved some more time with the characters because I love the engagement between them.
Yes.
And I was glad that they had multiple fights with Dar-Benn because it was nice to kind of spread it out a little bit.
Yep.
The last fight was a little bit anticlimactic, but again, that wasn't the intent. It wasn't Dar-Benn wasn't the bad guy, wasn't the big bad. Dar-Benn, you know, unfortunately, you know, we won't see her again. That she hit the
That's
first.
the thing. I feel like we could. I know I'm being optimistic, but like with comic book sci-fi hijinks science, I feel like we can because quantum bands, they're ways to transport people around, apparently. What if she got red skulled?
Yeah, it's possible. But you know, but again, the problem, like the solution that dealing with Carol's issues, that was the major problem. You know, her going and saving the Kree at the end, like reigniting the planet, and then her coming back to Earth was a big deal because that means next big Marvel movie we might get a Carol appearance. You know,
I stand by the fact that Kang Dynasty, since it's being directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, and he has such a good relationship with Brie Larson, we will see him. We will see Carol, and of course Shang-Chi, I think, and Kamala and a few of the other Young Avengers.
Well, I think we'll see all of them, and we'll probably see a lot from the multiverse because I honestly believe Secret Wars is going to be the culmination. It's going to be the end of it all, and the
it's gonna be end of the Fox universe, Sony universes, yeah. Hopefully, it's the end of the Sony universe. I don't want more Morbius.
Well, you know, we know Venom's in the universe now. That we have all of these little working parts, and again, in Marvel,
I guess
Marvel
the
Comics,
Spot from Across the Spider-Verse.
Well, in Marvel Comics, you have lots of crossover events, but the majority of the stuff happens in individual comics, and so that's kind of where we run with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I can't complain with this film, to the extent that listen, you can always give your opinion, and then you can always have things that you would like to have seen better, but it was a super solid film.
I will say my personal biggest issue with it, because at the end of the day, you said Dar-Benn wasn't the main threat, and I agree. However, I would like to have seen how Dar-Benn's relationship also plays into Kamala's and Monica's, because like you and I agree 100% that Kamala steals the show, and this story is heavily just a lot of character work for Carol that a lot of people were complaining about that wasn't there back in the first Captain Marvel film, and that's fair. Because this film really shows the range of Brie Larson, and I love that so much for her because she seems like a genuinely wonderful person online and everything. But if after all that, because Kamala's the highlight, Carol gets most of the story, Monica does feel relegated to the back out of the three of them, and I would have loved to have gotten more with Monica. We at least got to see some stuff involving her mom and all that, and her relationship with Carol. But beyond that, we don't see too much more.
Yeah. One last observation, because this is one I have to talk about. First of all, the entanglement. Did it remind you of anything?
The way they were just shifting back and forth?
Yes.
No, not
really. It wasn't the positional thing, but it like if you think about power set changes, it was very reminiscent to Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Oh God.
Now you can't unthink it. I'm sorry, but I had to do that to you.
But like the way they after they teleport, the way the energy just like travels upward. Yeah,
and
no.
How did they at the end of the movie? How did they solve the problem? They combined their powers.
Oh my God!
Now you can't unthink it. But then, second of all, one of the things that I thought was really neat was, whereas you thought that the quantum entanglement was a bad thing, the moment they realized they weren't entangled anymore, did you see Carol's face?
I felt sad with Carol.
She was so disappointed.
Yeah, it
Like-
was legit. It was so convenient.
It
Honestly,
gave her a reason to be around people, and I think that was
Mhm.
I think that was the moment I felt really sad for her. I mean,
Yeah,
30
same.
years she's trying to undo the Kree thing. Everyone's like, oh well, she had no emotions in the Captain Marvel. 30 years of trying to uncondition herself.
I mean, what is it? I really hope they find a way to get the bangles to work so that Carol and Kamala can always just teleport to each other if they need.
Mhm.
And speaking of which, by the way, I love Kamala's line about like, just say the word. If you need me, I will be right there for you. I will drop out of high school. And then it was either
Like,
Carol or
"Oh,
Monica just like,
don't do
no, don't do that. Just stay in
Or
high school.
I love how the fact, like, I would have died inside. First of all, realizing Carol saw my room and it was like a shrine to her. Second of all, like, she's geeking out.
So me
And-
if Shimu ever comes into my room.
And the moment where she's like, I know it's probably problematic because I use the name Marvel and it's the Marvels and Captain Marvel. And I don't know if there's a copyright issue, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, twinsies.
I love that moment so much. It was so cute.
So,
It was so good. God, I
Yeah.
wish I could be Amon Vellani.
oh man. Okay, last thing. I know I already said this. One more thing and I'll shut
We're
up.
gonna have a lot of last things.
Now, I think this will be the last thing because we're almost pushing an hour and I never intended to go this long.
Fair.
So Amon Vellani pulls a Nick Fury.
Yes.
She's got the data board, or the data, whatever you want to call it, the data
Yeah.
pad.
The newest iPad.
Like it's the TemPad, but it's not a TemPad. And so I'm just saying this. I know exactly why she went to Kate Bishop.
So that she can meet Hawkeye.
No, it's not that. She went to Kate Bishop because Kate Bishop's got money.
Also true. She is a Nepo baby.
So she is like, so imagine, because mommy's in jail and, and
It's probably daddy's, death insurance is still
who
there.
knows what Jacques is doing. But
True.
you've got her approaching her and she's like, did you really think you're the only kid superhero? And she's like, I'm 23.
Did you know that Ant-Man has a daughter? I love that. What was
Oh,
it? I
man.
remember seeing your video. I still need to stitch it actually, but I remember you talking about how Young Avengers is coming, and then you got a comment about the Champions.
Mhm.
This is how I see it, because in the comics, the Ms. Marvel is part of the Avengers during All New All Different run. I think it was the standoff event that happens at the Pleasant Hills, and then after that event, Nova, Miles, and Kamala, they leave the Avengers. They become disillusioned by them, and then they forge the Champions.
Right.
What I kind of hope happens is that by the end of Kang Dynasty, maybe Kamala's part of the Avengers and everything, or she makes the Young Avengers with Kate, right? And then it becomes a slight Civil War situation where our known heroes, Captain Marvel, Hulk, Thor, even all of them are just going like, okay, we need to go take on Kang directly in Secret Wars. And there's that. But then you have Kamala and then some of the other Young Avengers, maybe. There's maybe some conflict between her, Kate, Cassie, and all that. And all they want to do is just help save civilians while the others want to go help the Avengers. And I hope that's just where they split off. Kamala just goes like, okay, we can't be the Avengers in this situation. We got to become our own thing. The Champions.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's what happens, because I would love to get both Young Avengers and Champions, but still have that Champions moment where they realize their main superheroes that they look up to isn't always what they thought they were, which we also get a hint of in this film, and I loved.
I mean, and we've got so many young superheroes. that have been
Spider-Man
teased out of
technically
this.
still counts.
Yeah, I mean, nobody knows.
He's
that
younger than
anymore.
Kate.
And then you've got America Chavez, you've got
America
Cassie
Chavez.
Lang.
Yeah.
And
We've got hints
people
of Patriot, and I doubt the new Joaquin Torres Falcon can be part of the Young Avengers or anything like in the comics.
No,
because
I could see him be more like a side.
Yeah, if he's in the army, he's probably in his late 20s, I think.
Yeah, but then you've got Hulkling.
And Hulkling, which is
Yeah.
coming apparently in Coven of Chaos or whatever the heck Agatha's now at with their third name.
Oh yeah, I think it was originally House of Harkness, which I thought was pretty
House
cool,
of
but-
Harkness, Coven of Chaos, and Darkhold Diaries, I think it is now.
Is it really?
I think it is.
Well, then that means it's gonna be like an in the past thing. Like at some point, I just want Agatha Harkness to be the nanny for the Richards.
Same.
Like I need
I
her
also feel like
working with
Wanda's gonna
Frank.
come back in that though.
Yeah. Okay. Any last thoughts?
Go watch this movie, people. Genuinely, fuck the haters. I'm watching it again on Tuesday with like 5 other people.
My son is trying to convince me to take him to the theater to go see it. I'm probably gonna have to figure out some way to do that.
Cave. From one Jonathan to Tony as well. Cave.
Yeah. Well, thank you for this. It's been an hour already. We've talked an hour. We're more than halfway through what the runtime of the actual movie is.
Hey.
But yeah, I can't say enough stuff. I want to bring some more people in. We're definitely going to do this. Some of the girl members of Nerd Initiative couldn't make it because of the time frame, and so we're probably going to have to do this again and let them talk, and they could probably get it done a lot more concisely than we could.
Probably. But we have that chemistry.
Yeah, we do. Oh man. Still love my picture of Karen Gillan. So.
Magnific.
Yep. All right. Well, Johnny, have a good night.
Have a good night, Tony.
And everybody here, if you've never seen us before, please go ahead and follow the Nerd Initiative channel here on YouTube. You can also catch a bunch of things worth Nerd Initiative, and I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick rundown of those. So, Johnny, you can bear with me here real quick.
Yeah, no.
Always to do it because we have to keep the lights on. Check out the Nerd Initiative merchandise store. If you want to know more about what we're doing, you're definitely going to go to the contact page and put your information in and be put on our newsletter. We are oftentimes doing giveaways during those newsletters, but we're also letting you know some of the cool stuff that we're doing, including panels for future comic conventions. Be sure to check out New Comic Book Day. We have a lot of fantastic people with the Nerd Initiative bullpen that are talking about the things that you want to know about, whether it's indie comics or from the big three. You'll definitely want to see those. And then as well, if you like custom shoes, I'm just going to say it, you need to go check out the Batman Joker shoes, or we call them the Bat Pack, from Shoebaker. They're amazing. I believe you still can get them now. And then tomorrow is Turn a Page. Well, I guess at this point it's tonight. For me, it's tomorrow for people in Vancouver. It is Turn a Page, so be sure to check them out. And then on Thursdays we have Rich from the 3FN podcast, who is doing his Wrestling Night Live on Thursday. So be sure to check them out. And I'm trying to see if there's anything else that and of course we talked about the Bat Pack, but also the Nerdy Kicks, the Spider-Man Venom shoes. Beautiful. They're so beautiful. I absolutely love them.
After playing Spider-Man 2, I was like, oh, I wish I had the money.
Yep. And if you're with us to the end of this, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more stuff with Nerd Initiative.
I'm sure Tony and I will do this again.
Oh yeah. I think people are going to want us not to, but we're going to keep doing it.
We're definitely going to have to.